Okay, today I have a friend of mine with me. I'm talking to the people watching, obviously, Risa. I always feel awkward. I'm like, okay, I need to tell them, but I'm also talking to you. So anyway, today we are going to talk about, okay, first I'm going to share how we came to this idea, because this month I am going through, I have a group of girls in my Becoming Gold community, call them my BG girls, which I don't think they know that. I just call them that in my head. They'll know that now if they watch this. And this month we're talking about a lot of stuff in there, but in particular in the wedding planning side of things, we're talking about ways to save money for your wedding. And so I did a little video on that, and I was trying to think of what to do for YouTube this week. And so I asked my friend Risa, who is here with me, who I lived with Risa at one point. We've been friends for years. We worked together, photographed her wedding and family photo, just so much stuff.
All the things. Laura has photographed all of them.
Yeah, literally all. So I was asking Risa, like, what should I do? This is what we just talked about. And she said, why don't you talk about the opposite? Things that you should spend money on for your wedding. And I thought, genius. And so Riz and I were having a conversation about it over text. And I just said, what if you came on the show and talked about it with me? And she so graciously said yes to a very last minute invitation. So here we are.
All the time.
Thanks, Riza. I really appreciate it. So this is Riza. And Riza, you can tell the people a little bit about yourself.
About myself. Okay. My name is Risa McCormack. I currently live in Calgary. I am a personal assistant to a 10-month-old boy named Henry, and also an older man named Justin. So we live a happy life. I like the color yellow. I love Laura. I'm a huge fan. And since moving to Calgary, I'm kind of stressing out about who my family photographer is going to be. It does keep me up at night.
You've only been there like 2 weeks.
I know, but I have been stressing about it. I can't even tell you. Like, I was talking about it today with a friend, and I was like, what do I do? What if I have to fly her in? And I was like, oh, that's it. That's what I'll do. So we solved it already.
I'm so honored. Wonderful. Yeah, I'll come to you. I'll come to you for sure. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, so Risa, you got married in 2020. Dun, yes. Dun, dun. Like, what a year to get married in.
Feels like a lifetime ago, but
yeah. So I think it would be awesome, as we're talking about things that you should spend money on. And I think it's good to clarify too, that we're not saying you have to spend money on these things, but there are definitely things that you won't regret spending money on. Mm-hmm. And there is an attitude around money that is important to have, I think, that will help maybe ease guilt of spending or hesitation in spending money on a wedding. So we'll jump into all of those things, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your engagement kind of looked like and how you were planning and replanning your wedding.
Yeah, I think we planned like 5 weddings. So we got real good at planning a wedding. Okay, so yeah, my husband and I, we got engaged in December, and we planned to get married in August, which was like 7.5 months. And we thought that was a really good timeline for us. It was really good. It was maybe too long, but that's me. And at first, it was a pre-pandemic world. So we were kind of like dreaming really big and maybe a little too big, because I'm a little bit on the extra side and Justin is on the simpler side. So initially we were having a hard time compromising until we just had conversations with our other friends who had been married already. And we figured like, no, like it's a wedding that we're preparing for, but that's not actually the point. It's like a marriage. So we that shifted our thinking into making it more about the sacrament. And that changed everything for us, because originally we were planning like a venue at a hotel or something like that. And then our plan was to get married in the church, and our reception was going to be in the parish hall. Like, and we were going to have food trucks and like, what are those called? Lawn games. So it was a pretty simple wedding, because that's what we wanted to impart to our guests, that like we like a good time. And a good time doesn't have to be an expensive time. It can be a simple time. And that's the kind of stuff that Justin and I like to do anyway. Like we just like to go out for a drink or just to stay home and like watch something and like spend time together. So that's kind of the vibes that we wanted for our wedding. Like when you're in line for a taco, or when you're in line for a food truck, you're naturally kind of what's it called? Like you're packed with everyone else in line, and you talk to everyone. And lawn games, you're maybe paired up with someone you don't know, but it's a good way to get to know someone in a really kind of fake icebreaker way. So those were all the ideas that we had to kind of share this theme of friendship. And we just wanted to be very generous with our guests in that way. Anyways, all that to say, our big dreams didn't happen because the pandemic happened, and we had to keep changing our plan, and it got simpler and simpler. But we still wanted to keep the heart of gifting our friends, the ones that we could invite, that they were really important to us, and that they that we were grateful that they were there. Like so many people. Yeah, engagement is like an interesting season, because you're so grateful to be together, but you're reflecting more on like all the people that had to do something, or that had something to do with you getting together. And especially for Justin and I, like we were set up on a blind date. And if that didn't happen, like nothing, I would never have run into him. And it just like our lives would be completely different. So if it wasn't for those small things, nothing would have happened. So we really wanted to be generous to these people in the small things too. So what ended up happening was we gifted. Wait, where am I going with that? What did we do?
So at this point with your wedding plans now in BC where you had your wedding, the limit was 50 people.
Yes, and it only had 50 people.
And like doing it at a venue wasn't really conducive because of like cost. You know, even if you have only 50 people, they still charge you for a lot more. Or just in general, like if the rules changed and you had to readjust, getting a venue would be just so much of a stressor. So you ended up doing it in your parents' backyard. Well, your church ceremony at the church still went ahead, but we could only have 50 people in the church. And then, your backyard reception was not even 50 people. I don't think.
No, it was really our wedding parties. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our wedding parties and our families. So how we made it more special was at our reception with the 20 people. That sounds like such a small number, but it was such a big number when I think about it. We asked everyone what their favorite drink was. So like whether they liked a yellow dog beer or like a gin and tonic, or like my mother-in-law really likes white wine, a Pinot Grigio. So we made sure that we had that. So we got everyone's drinks. And then we also, I thought this was the fun part, because I really like ice cream. So we got everyone a pint of ice cream from Rain or Shine. But at 20 people, like 20 pints is not a big deal. But pints for 250 people, like that's a big deal. But that was just like a small way of us to say thank you. Like this is something that really brings me joy, ice cream. And we wanted to make sure that everyone got to take some of that home too. Some other things for my bridesmaids, I don't know. I had been like hemming and hawing over like getting something like a matching bracelet or something like that. Cause I do love those. And then you kind of like, you have that memory attached to this piece of jewelry. But then I had to like think about it, because I'm not a jewelry person. Like I don't wear anything. It's not like true to who I was. But I was really obsessed with like these polymer clay earrings. So I just got everyone a matching pair of earrings. And even though it wasn't their style, because everyone has their own style, it was just nice to know that we were all kind of connected in that small way. And then if they don't wear the earrings, it was only like, it wasn't the cost of a gold bracelet or something. And so I was like, okay with that. But it wasn't like me being cheap or something. It was just me trying to have a meaningful and thoughtful gift.
Yeah,
similarly,
they were yellow. They were yellow.
Yeah,
like your wedding color was
yellow.
yellow, and yeah, they were a beautiful yellow. You wore them. Did the girls wear them? I can't remember.
I wore them too. Yeah.
Yeah. Did they wear them on the day with their yellow dresses? Yeah, yeah. So yeah. It was so pretty.
Yeah, I told everyone like not to bring earrings, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I have something for you."
Yeah.
And everyone had earrings. Oh, and we also like for the kids. So our wedding, we had 50 people, and I think 15 of them were kids. And so we gave all the kids a goodie bag, just because like a wedding is kind of hard for them to comprehend sometimes. Like, oh, what happens now? They just like live together. But like, I wanted them to have like a fun memory so that when we like meet with them later on, we could be like, hey guys, remember that gift basket that was from our wedding? And now, you know, we can talk about it in a less stressful way. I don't know. I always found it hard to talk to kids that I didn't know, and I needed an icebreaker with them. So we loaded them up on sugar. And then we also gave the parents, because we couldn't invite everyone to our backyard for a wedding, we gifted all of the families and everyone who was like helping. Like we had a photographer or a videographer who was helping us with the live streams. And then we also had our friends help us with the choir. And it all came together very miraculously, but we really wanted to thank them. So we gave them all like our favorite bottle of wine, which is Chua wine. And some of them even waited for us to like drink it with them when we could meet. But that was really fun just to know that we were all drinking the same wine at some point in the next few weeks. Yeah, so it wasn't like things that were really expensive or really extravagant, but it was just like, oh, it's just a bottle of wine or a pair of earrings. I don't know.
Yeah, it's less about the thing and more about the heart behind it. And the fact that you really wanted people to feel like you saw them and you knew the difference they'd made in your lives. Because like you said earlier, this wouldn't be happening without all these people playing whatever part. Even though, you know, it took one person to say, you guys should go on a date to set you up. It was all the people around too that have supported you before you met each other and then during your relationship and now that are going to be supporting you moving forward in your marriage.
Yeah.
And so to have that heart of gratitude and being generous with your money, you know, it's a small thing, but it's still multiplied by however many still adds up. And no matter how much it ends up costing, it's still the act of actually doing something for them as well. That makes it just people feel that they go, this was special. That was so thoughtful and generous. Really, that's the word of the day.
Yeah. It was hard though, like trying to be good stewards of our money, knowing like, oh, we're going back and forth with a lot of like cost benefit. Like, what's the cost of this? But what's the benefit of this? And a lot of things were cut. Flowers were cut. I got them through Kalia Flowers, which is like a subscription, because I valued other things more than my flowers. Can't remember where else I cheaped out. My invitations, I made them, but my invitations were great. And our thank you cards were great because we prioritized like a really good photographer. And I still love our photos. Like I'm obsessed. And, but yeah, those things like really elevated the Canva design that I came up with because it was very amateur. I can see that now. But if you flip it on the other side, it was a nice photo of Justin and I. So I was okay with that.
I didn't know you made those on Canva. That is amazing. I love them. They were very modern and like, just very cool.
It was a template and I literally just changed the names. I didn't design any of it on my own. But
God bless whoever created Canva.
I know. Yeah, bless
I
them.
love it.
But yeah, I think that engagement was a really, and it was a lesson too, like being good stewards of our money that didn't end there. I don't know if we wanted to talk about this, but
yeah, let's.
like we found out that we were pregnant very soon after our wedding, and it was like okay, we got to watch the budget and we got to be good stewards of our money, and we have to really think about where our funds are going to, and like what are we going to support, and where can we be frivolous and where can we be frugal. So yeah, it was a good practice that never ends.
Mm-hmm.
Never ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you guys have a conversation? I mean, because you got engaged at the end of 2019, did you have a conversation then about, hey, this is our budget, these are our priorities, and we're going to spend accordingly? And knowing that just because it's a priority doesn't mean that it costs, or that it has to cost like a significant dollar amount. But that if it's important, you know that you're going to make effort to make sure that it happens. You guys have that kind of a conversation at the beginning, and then maybe again when pandemic plans changed.
We did have it like we did have what are our priorities conversation, because I mean, up until that point, all of our planning was still kind of like, this is what I'm doing. Does this work for you? And it wasn't really like together that we were planning. This was the wedding was like the first big thing, I guess. So we each had picked 3 things, like what were important to us. And it wasn't things maybe like, oh, this is connected to a line item, but it like one of them was Justin's family is from Nova Scotia. So there were a few family members and really, really close friends that we had wanted to like fly in, you know? And so that's like a very, very important thing that has a high dollar amount connected to it because of flights. But that doesn't mean that if we needed to trim the budget, that'd be the first thing to trim, because it'd be easy to trim the fat that way. On the other side, what were my things? I had really wanted a photographer. Sorry, I keep harping on that, but it literally was like the crux of every argument, every discussion. And I also really wanted to cover the cost of the hair and makeup and the dresses for my bridesmaids and my mom and my grandma, all like the women in my family, because I loved getting pampered. I really felt previous weddings that I've been to, when that was covered, it's just such a nice gift, and I felt really taken care of by the brides in that way. So I wanted to also do that for my girls, and that one was like a sliding scale type of expense, because you go with a less experienced, I guess, or more local one, a more local makeup artist and stuff like that, versus like a very popular one that like has all the followers on Instagram. So that was somewhere where I had to decide whether I wanted a very high end, what is it called? Whether I wanted a really high end company, or I was okay with a newer company, so that all of my girls could get both hair and makeup and dresses, because that was really important for me. So that's where I trimmed the fat there.
So then you had this original conversation about what to spend. And then when plans had to change, how did that affect, did any of the priorities change, or was it like you kept those and then just I mean, because you didn't have to rent a venue anymore. So I assume that like freed up some money, or like just budget, the volume of food for people just was obviously lower. How did that go, having those conversations when things had to change? Did you have them again, or was it just like, we're just dealing with whatever's happening
every day? No, we did. One of the big things that changed in our budgeting was the amount of people that we could have, because that had a direct correlation to like the cost of food, like you were saying. And we had talked about earmarking that money and those funds to potentially have like a Nova Scotia reception. At that point, we had like no idea. We thought maybe it would go away within a year and we'd go to Nova Scotia. Those flights are pricey, and like do a second reception there. And I had also dreamed of doing another reception in Calgary because a lot of Justin's friends weren't able to come. Like basically only two of them came or could come. Yeah, so we kind of split our one reception into three, which was crazy at the time. And so that made everything smaller. Everything became very backyard, very like no catering. So we basically just ordered on Uber Eats for our wedding reception. And it was great. It was great. I cannot recommend Nando's pizza and Filipino barbecue. It's pretty good time. So good. You're welcome. That's all you need.
Yeah, thank you.
So a lot of our food budgets transferred into like flight credits or flight funds because we knew that we wanted to go to Nova Scotia eventually. Because I hadn't even met any of Justin's extended family and friends yet. So we knew that we were going to do that. And then another one of Justin's brothers lives in London. So we had earmarked some funds to maybe go visit him. And then also Justin has another brother in California. So we were like, okay, we have like 3 big trips coming up and who knows what COVID tests and all that stuff need to be accounted for. So that's where we kind of transferred our budget. But then we also decided that we would kind of be generous with ourselves. And so we went to Whistler for like a week and stayed at a really nice hotel. And we just kind of lived it up. You know, we were like embracing the social distancing that everyone was under. And then we had a baby. So
yeah. No social distancing for the married couple. Yeah. No, that's really great to hear that. It wasn't like, it wasn't like you had found money, you know, like that term, like that you just like windfall money. You said the priority is still like you were going to fly people in and then you didn't. All the people that you could have flown and you couldn't because they couldn't come. But you still said this is still a priority for us to see and celebrate with these people. So we are going to move this money somewhere else and make sure that we have it for the future because that's important. The people are important. We want to make sure that we don't just spend this money and then can't see them. I think that's really important just because you haven't used your whole budget doesn't mean that you can just put more money into something else.
Yeah.
Or like you can, you know, sometimes you're like,
you definitely can, but
our food budget was $1,000 less than we anticipated. So now we can use that for something else. Like that's great to be able to do. That's definitely what we did for our wedding. Our food budget ended up being less so we could move funds. But if it's like in your case where it was like, no, our wedding has just been trimmed down from, I don't know, 250, 300. I feel like 300 was said at one point and come down to 50. Like that's a huge difference. And so to make sure that you're still following those priorities, but then also going, we don't have to only tuck it away. We can really celebrate as well. Cause I really love what you said about being generous with yourselves too, because it's not a honeymoon is not an everyday thing. I think that's an important distinction is that your honeymoon is once and it's such a special time to be cocooned away from the world. And I know that that's kind of what life was like in 2020 anyway, but this is a special time where you've entered into the sacrament together. You're receiving these new graces that, you know, that are just so special. And to have that time, just the two of you to really concretely solidify your relationship and start off on the same page and just to go away and to have time together, to come back and be like, we are now a married couple facing the world together. And I also thought it was interesting too, that you mentioned, I'm going way back in our conversation, it feels like, but you were talking about how the wedding was the first thing that you guys were like, we need to do this together financially. of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's great, because before that, there's no obligation. And I don't think there should be. And maybe as I work this out in my head and start speaking it, maybe my thoughts will come to me. But you know what? Like when you're dating, you don't really need to think about the other person when you're spending your money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, of course you want to be like, you're considerate and you're thinking of the future and blah, 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 but you don't need to be like, I'm going to go out for friends for dinner and I need to check if they're okay with that, like spending that money.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like being married and having a set budget that we check all the time, it's like, we need to know, hey, I want to spend money on this thing. Either we have the budgeted money for it or we don't. And then it's like, okay, then we have to have a conversation about,
mm-hmm.
and like, yeah, going after dinner maybe is a kind of a weird example, but like, I don't know, just those kinds of things that like, as soon as you get engaged, that's when you've elevated your relationship and you aren't married yet. So there is still freedom to not rediscern, but to discern out. You know how like seminarians like discern out, like that's what engagement is like. I'm so sensitive to that because I know a lot of people who have gotten engaged and then they weren't.
Mm-hmm. So
there's that. I'm going to put my hand down. I don't know why it's still up here. But you've elevated your relationship. And then in marriage, you two become one, and that includes your money. And so practicing for regular everyday life budgeting is great to be doing that for planning a wedding and having to actually get the other person's opinion about what's important. What's important to you? What's important to me? What are the things that are important to us together, and how do we move forward together?
Yeah, those are some good conversations to have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Those are, talking about how you feel about money, where you're at with your money, what you have in your bank account, if you have a student loan, how much money you actually can contribute to paying for a wedding, if you're paying for it yourselves. So many things.
So many things.
I'll just do a plug here. If you have not had this conversation, if you're listening to this and you haven't had this conversation, I have a free download that I'll link in the notes that's called Setting Expectations. It's from the Wedding Guide, which is a product I wrote, unfortunately, after Risa's wedding, literally actually during the time of Risa was getting married. But this guide literally is every decision you need to make about your wedding, and it includes money. So the setting expectation stuff is great if you are like, we're not on the same page, we have no idea, we haven't started, or you need to reel it in and revisit things. This is a great download for you. And if you're like, okay, we've done that, but we need to figure out how to talk about money, the Wedding Guide is probably a great next step for you if you're like, have no clue where to begin. So that's an aside. But I wanted to, I have, as per my discussion with Risa the other day. Oh, do you have any other thoughts before I go on to these things from brides? No? Good. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, when I was texting Risa, it's always helpful to have someone else to talk to about ideas. I work alone a lot. And so to just bounce stuff off of people is great. So I told Risa, I'm going to ask brides. Well, I should have asked her first. I said, what do you feel like? What did I ask? What are you happy that you spent money on?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What are you happy? What are you happy
money
that you
on?
spent money on?
Yeah. And so, okay, so a disclaimer, I did ask all brides whose wedding I have photographed because I know a lot of them. And so I feel like maybe they felt pressured to say photography. but
no, but it's just true.
Yeah. And even if it's not me, I will I understand if I'm not your photographer, but a good photographer. So yeah, every single one of them said photography. And what was also interesting though, is that I asked brides from like 6 years ago to last year. So my pricing has changed significantly over the years. And some of them had to pay for travel and all that. So the dollar amount, what used to be like smaller, and now it's bigger. And across the board, people said photography. So it, on one hand, you do sort of get what you pay for, but I don't want you to feel like you don't have to spend $10,000. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to be the thing. Okay. So I'm going to go through each bride that kind of, that answered, and then we'll chat about some of the things and whether or not like any of these things were stuff that you also are happy to spend money on. Okay. So I'll keep them anonymous, but the first one, photography from the best with hard eyes. Just love it. Decorations.
Oh, yeah.
Food and alcohol. Flowers.
Yes, for the alcohol.
And her dress and the groom's suit. And you know what? This was important too. She said that she spent quite a few $100s on hair and makeup, and she's really glad she did because it was important to feel beautiful and special on that day. And I think that's cool. Yeah, I know that you did. I think that was so great. I didn't do it, and I sort of wish I had, but I did my own makeup and my sister did my hair. So
yeah, but I think it depends if you are like, I can't do my makeup and I never feel good doing it versus like, if you know what looks good on your face or like what works for you, then you're like confident. But I like have no skills in the makeup or in the hair. So I was like, I need to like look good, feel good. Yeah. And I need that to be with me throughout the day. So
totally. Yeah. It definitely is a preference for sure. And that's where setting your specific priorities comes into play, because your priority might not, when you think about it as a priority, you're not going hair and makeup is my priority. Your priority is looking and feeling your best to enter into the sacrament of marriage.
Yeah.
And so then
you want your husband to look at you and be like, dang.
Yeah.
Totally. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. The next one. Okay. So also said photography. And she said that's the thing you'll see for the next 25 to 50 years after your wedding. Make it good. And I'm not just saying that because you were our photographer. But that's
important note.
That's so, I mean, I'll go over, I won't keep harping on about photography either, but I wouldn't be a wedding photographer if I didn't think it was important. You know, so just, you will never regret having a good photographer or like investing in photography. You will regret not doing it. I think that's
100%.
Yeah. Food and wine. Oh, this one was cool because she said, okay, so this was also another COVID bride, and I'm actually going to have her on the show in a few weeks to talk about some other stuff about wedding planning and whatnot. But she said that, so their wedding ended up being 10 people at the reception. Yeah, it was small, but it was so lovely. It was really lovely. I'll have her talk about it more. But she said that they had, I'm pretty sure it was her, that I'm like going through my screenshots of our conversations. Okay, so they had made really nice wine. Did they make it?
They made the wine?
I'll have to clarify that with her. But they got really nice wine. And she said that wine in the Bible symbolizes God's abundance. And it was amazing to feel God's abundance amidst so much turmoil with COVID and be reminded of that with our nice wine. And then they had the wine after the wedding too. So that's so nice. She spent money on her dress, but then she went for a cheaper veil and just borrowed jewelry. Thought that was
I borrowed my veil. I didn't buy a veil.
I borrowed my veil too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Borrowing veils. Thank the friend that buys the veil.
Yeah. But then it's also like, it was like my best friend's veil. So like we both got married in this. I think that's like such a special bond.
That is.
Like too. And I used my sister's like hair clip.
Yeah.
Because her veil was not the same shade of white.
Yeah.
Who knew? But yeah, it's like fun to have those like heirloom kind of things to share with you guys, with you and your friends too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that my dress, I mean, yeah, I bought it new and I loved it. I don't think it wasn't that expensive. It was $1,000. I mean, dresses
they can be much
up the
much
wazoo.
more, yeah.
And oh my gosh, this is so special to have you on the show to talk about this. But my dress is super simple. I love it, but it didn't have sleeves, and I wanted to have like a flutter sleeve. And so, inspired by the habit of the Sisters of Life, just so y'all know. Anyway, while I was engaged, I got to like hang out with some of them at work. It was wild, and so I needed it altered to fit properly, and also the sleeves. And Risa's mom, who I don't know if she still does this, but she was making debut dresses, or like would make one a year or something. And it was like the thing to have Risa's mom make your dress. And so I was the one who got to have Risa's mom like edit my dress, tailor my dress. And she made the sleeves. And that was my wedding present from you and like your family. That was so, I mean, that's hundreds of dollars as well. Like I would have gladly invested that money into my dress, but then to have it also be gifted was like, I mean, a true gift. Oh, and this one too. This one reminded me of what you said about how you went to Whistler for your honeymoon. They also, for their wedding night and their honeymoon stuff, they like got a nice hotel. And I thought that was great.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, it really does. Okay. I'll go through these a little faster probably. Okay. Yeah. Photography. This is another ride. Photography, flowers, a DJ. That's usually where some people just opt for like an aux cord and a playlist,
or like a Spotify playlist. Yeah, but it's so much better live.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than having a song stop and then you wait for the next one to start. Not good vibes. Yeah. Table and chair linens, which depends on the venue. Their venue needed them. Honestly, needed them. And then her dress. Yeah.
I got my linens too. I got them from Amazon. So I got 20, and then we kept them. So we use our wedding linens like every day.
That's awesome. I didn't
They're
know
just
that.
like our daily napkins. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, that's smart. That is really smart.
Didn't know I was being smart, was being frugal, but it worked out.
Perfect. It's perfect. Okay. Next bride said photography. And they also stayed in a fancy hotel. They said they don't know if they would have justified it on any other occasion. So, yeah. And then she also said, so she's a musician, and she said that paying our musicians a decent stipend was very important to us. It's a huge part of making the Mass a beautiful celebration, and the time and energy put into it is not lost on us. I'm passionate about these people getting paid, friends or not. Yeah. This next bride said they're glad they spent money on their rings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Flowers. And then they had, the bride and groom were from different provinces, and so they flew out a priest from the bride's home province to come and celebrate as well. I thought that was really special. Next bride, another vote for having hair done by a professional, and dress tailoring, like alterations that it fit perfectly. Yeah, that's huge. Those things help to make you feel like a true bride, you know?
Yeah. Especially when it's like molded to your body. It's like your dress, you know?
Yeah. It's not just off the rack anymore. It's truly yours. Yeah. There were some things that so for us, I'll just share what we're glad we spent money on was our venue. We were originally going to do it in my parents' backyard, but there was just some complications. And so we said, you know what, we're just going to go look for a venue 3 months out from our wedding. And they had our date available. And it was the Lord's doing. So yeah, it was awesome having a place that was really beautiful. It was on a farm. And it was just,
it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was so nice. And so we didn't feel like we had to do much to it. It was worth investing in the venue, and because outside tents and everything, we didn't have to do much else, which was really helpful. And I mean, photography, of course, for myself, like not me photographing our wedding. Duh. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are other things too, but I think those are the things that lined up with our priorities as well. Like, I mean, we got married in 2018, so this was obviously pre-pandemic. Things weren't really decided for us, but having a relaxed, chill, like very laid back kind of a party was really important. And so the venue really does dictate that a lot. You know, if you're having it in a ballroom, kids are going to feel like, well, kids are going to run around no matter what. And I didn't want anyone to feel like my kid is being super loud or like,
or destroying things. Like,
yeah, it's like you have freedom to run around. I mean, there's so many grownups. We're all going to watch out for the kids on the farm, but to have that feeling of everyone is welcome here, and you can be loud and you can run around, and and yeah, just to have that was really important. So the one thing that I wanted to bring up, that I had this thought, I think yesterday, well, kind of after we talked about it, a lot of the times when we think about what we should spend money on for like the wedding, it comes down to like the day itself. But I think when you're thinking about where to spend your money while you're engaged, another thing to think about is the actual preparing for marriage part. Because I mean, I know that you can do marriage prep for free, you know, if your parish offers it or something, but often if you're doing it through your diocese, there is a cost involved. And I mean, I didn't know that when we were going about it, but like that it is like an extra thing. Yeah. But even things like reading books or making sure that you're still going on dates and still important. Doing that kind of stuff while you're engaged, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in wedding planning and thinking about, okay, we have to spend money. You don't have to do anything, that we're spending money on this wedding and we want to make sure we have the money for it. And yeah, absolutely. You can, if you're on a tight budget, you don't feel like you have to go out to eat or go on expensive dates or anything, but making sure that you are investing in your relationship, and that might come with money, that might come with time. I mean, it'll come with time for sure, but money for a program or for books or for, even, I mean, with gas
or for having like a mentor couple.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. If you're having a mentor couple, just budget for extra gas to go to their house for dinner. Yeah.
And to bring wine for them.
Yeah. To be generous with what you do have when you're saying thank you to these people and all that. So I just wanted to bring that up too, because I think that's, I mean, for us, when we found out there's a price tag on our marriage prep, we were like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, it's required and we have to pay money. And that's because we are on a tight budget for our wedding. And so it was like, oh my gosh, this is an unexpected expense that wasn't cheap. But if you're aware of that, I think just to remember that you're getting married and preparing for marriage is worth investing in as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you should also take the time to not be talking about plans when you're engaged. Like, you can have dates and talk about it for 5 minutes, cap it. Because your wedding is only one day. And there's so much more to life after that. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. You don't want to come. I mean, not that I really think this would happen to people, but I really hope it wouldn't happen to people that the day after your wedding, you're like, what do we talk about? Because the wedding's over. I mean, there's lots to talk about, but you know, it's like, there's just a lot in life pre-wedding to enjoy and to deal with. And especially when it comes to money, it's easy to be wrapped up in it for a lot
and
of people.
to obsess over it and really like stress about it. So
yeah,
I recommend talking about it because it does help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually, Riza and I love talking about
budgeting.
About budgeting, because we use YNAB. It's called You Need a Budget. It's an app, and it is literally the best whatever money I spend on it a year. Like, yeah, it is truly,
it's worth it.
It is so worth it. It has been like, and it's absolutely changed. It has been a tool to change my relationship with money, and then just like our like household finances and everything. Like, that's a whole nother show to do about finances in
about
general.
YNAB.
Yeah, YNAB specifically. But I love it.
Well, yeah, YNAB specifically.
Yeah. I'll put a link
and
in the
Friday
notes.
Finds.
Yeah, love it. Their Instagram account is like just the best. They do these Friday finds, and both Riz and I are off Instagram for Lent, so we send our own Friday finds on like Wednesdays. But
or any day.
Yeah, it's just funny memes and everything. So they've got a great sense of humor. But I'll put a link in the notes if you want to try. If you're interested in what YNAB is, you can try it at this link. There's a free month trial, and then if you use this link, you'll get another free month when you sign up. So you'll get like 13 months versus 12 months in the subscription. And then I also get an extra month. So if you sign up, but put that in the notes.
Or if you just want to talk about it, we are always open to talking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we sure are. Yeah. So I think that's great. I think we've talked about a lot of things, and again, I don't want people to feel like you have to spend money on these things. But there are some things that it's okay to spend money, and it's okay to make sure that how you're spending your money lines up with what you think is important and as a couple, and that spending with a heart of generosity will take you far in terms of being detached from the actual money, and in just tangible ways to love your guests, no matter how much you're spending. Any last thoughts before we go?
I think that spending money is inherently like not a bad thing. And for your wedding, it's your money. It's not your parents' money, and it's not your guests' money. And they can recommend how you can spend your funds, but it's not their money. It's your money, and it should work for you and your spouse. And if you follow that mindset and like make sure that your funds align up with your priorities, you should have no regrets about your wedding day. I think that's what we did, and we have no regrets about our wedding day.
Yeah. When you're figuring out your priorities and whatnot, if you want to make sure that you're the ones making the decisions, it kind of comes down to, that it is your money. And so it's important to ask if anyone is gifting you money, like your parents, to ask them, is this a true gift with no strings attached? Or is this for something specific? Or does this come with strings? And I mean, maybe that sounds negative, but having that expectation around how the money is to be spent is important, so that if they're saying this is a gift, then you can go, okay, we are spending this money as if it is our own now. We've been gifted it. It's ours. So we're going to spend it kind of just like how Risa was saying, that it's your money to spend in the way that you deem fit. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Risa. This has been so great.
No problem. Happy to be here.